This is what happens to you when you 100% Silksong. Do you want to look like me? Do you want to become an abomination? Hi, this video is going to have all the spoilers. Just so many of them. Just letting you know. On September 9th, I posted a commentary video talking about my very first playthrough of Silksong. I talked for about, let me check, three hours? What the heck did I yap about? If you watched that, thank you, first of all. Second, this is part 2, in which I'll just show off the highlights of my 100% playthrough. So this is the continuation of the first video. And even if it's just highlights, yes, the video is a bit longer. I really tried to cut it down, but there's just so much to show and talk about, and the game is just enormous. With this, it's time to get back to Farloom and day 3. Enjoy. After 15 hours and 48 minutes, I somehow needed more Silksong, and for some reason I tried to fight Grandmother Silk again. To be fair, I wanted to see if something happens when you don't bind her. Sadly, there is no ending of you losing. Moving on to me going down into the deep docks and actually using the simple key on the big-ass door that I have seen there for many hours. Turns out there was a tool here, which makes your item fiery or something. Pretty cool. After getting a crafts medal, I sucked at a puzzle and literally died right before getting the spool fragment. Classic, of course. Not having been down here, there was a gauntlet I haven't fought yet or experienced. Clearly I should have been here many hours ago. I think I had nearly all the nail damage until now. Yeah, I think I was missing maybe 1 or 2. So clearly I was way too strong for this fight. From that on to the brothers, I think the 2 brothers or something along those lines. This was so late in the game that I kind of can't fully remember it, but that was a very difficult fight. And if I would do that fight again, boy would it be dangerous. Having paid 480 rosaries, I finally get the Vintage Nectar, which is, by the way, a quest for the Pale Oil, or for the Great Gourmand in the Citadel. Yeah, I still haven't done that. I was kind of lazy, I guess. But of course, surprise, there are ants! Ants. So yeah, of course, ants attack, and even though I had a lot of health, as you could see, I got pretty close to dying once or twice. That was close, holy moly. After returning to Bellheart, I got myself the Bell Home key. Such a beautiful moment, which just really works in Silksong. Hornet does help just a lot of people, and now they start giving back. And I also like this quick animation of her just laying down. You know, she deserves some rest, let's be honest, guys. Moving on to Mount Fae, which was the first time I even entered this area, if I'm correct. Or maybe I briefly went in there when I went to the slab, but still, I haven't discovered this area at all. I kind of ignored it. I quickly noticed that you start freezing, so this was kind of the gimmick of this area. I of course died once, and twice, and continuing on, I sadly lost all my rosaries, so I couldn't get this bench right here. And then I died once again, which brought me back down, all the way down back to Chakra. I then read this lore stone, which kind of explains what this whole, this whole part is, which, to be fair, now that I read that, it kind of gave me this inner fire of wanting to do it, right? I want to go beyond what the Weavers in the past did. I know it's a video game, but you know, it's just a good feeling. Struggling my way up, I was surprised seeing this. But I mean, in this whole game, it's all about song, right? It's all about music. So it kind of makes sense that this thing calls a burb. I think everyone thought this might be a fight because it was so dramatic, but thankfully, or sadly, I mean, I don't want to kill that bird, to be honest. So thankfully, it wasn't a fight, and I got myself the Fey Down Cloak. I think double jump is like such a great ability in a game, especially in a 2D game. I always wanted double jump. It just gives me this great feeling of I have done it. In a lot of Metroidvanias, you get the double jump early, but in Silksong, I feel like you get it quite late. Well, you get it late if you do it late, like I did. After finding double jump and going to the left, I found the Mask Maker, which is such a great thing for Team Cherry to add in Silksong. Having a Mask Maker explained that, well, masks have to be made by someone, and that is a type of craft in this world. It's absolutely beautiful. But not as beautiful as the Memoriam, which I then found, because with double jump you can get up there. And it's, again, such a beautiful area where it, like, brings everything in the game in one place, because they were gathering things, right? They wanted to memorize stuff. They didn't want to forget about the different parts of Farloom. But moving on from that, after getting a Cog Heart piece, or piece of the Cog Heart, and helping Jubilana, who is, I think Jubilana or Jubilana, I think is her name, who is the vendor in Songclave, I was looking at a wall on the right side, which looked a little bit sus. And of course, it's another area. Oh my god! So, putrefied ducts, absolutely disgusting area, don't go there. No, jokes aside. And I was literally being ripped apart, because then I went back to Songclave, checked out Jubilana, who was of course the vendor, to see what does she sell, can I get something, right? Damage, upgrades, anything. Also finding the Green Prince afterwards, but I had to go back to the Memoriam first, because I didn't even explore that area properly. So finding that, doing that, getting myself a spool fragment, which was of course very helpful. In addition to that, I got the Terminus. Sorry, I always call it the Terminus. No, Terminus is one of the places you can go to with the fast travel system in the Citadel. But also, the Materium is something I found in Memoriam, which is such a cool thing. It really adds to the entire game. It is something that Hollow Knight really missed, as in, well, you find so many cool things in the game, and they were clearly made for the player, but you can never, like, recall it in some form. And this is now a full UI in your home, in Belhard, and you can, on your own time, reread all the different materials in the game in one really nice, neat place. It's amazing. After activating my full brain power, I finally realized there's a place to the right of the Belhard fast travel Bell station. You know, yes, I'm like 18 hours in, and this is day 3, and I just realized this. Anyhow, we're moving on from that sad moment to finding the Ladybug person. Pretty cool guy. And I think he also offers a pouch tool capacity upgrade, and I think even a mask shard. Neat minigame. Pretty cool. Moving on to activating the rest of my brain power, which, yes, I am now on day 3, after so many hours. I have started using the pins now. Way too late, to be honest. I lost track of so many NPCs. That was the largest mistake I probably did in my Silksong playthrough. Definitely use the pins. Not like I did. Moving on to finding a flea, of course, you know, any awoos in chat? Sorry. Fleas, obviously I've tried to find many of them. I'm not gonna show all of them, otherwise this video is gonna be like 80 hours long. Also finding the spool fragment at the top of High Halls, which is, by the way, just a really cool place. And moving finally on to what is up with the Cog Heart pieces. Well, after I think 3 pieces, they come together to a Cog Heart. And you can put it into the second Sentinel. I finally found him. And I feel like this is the one character I really want a DLC from. I don't know why. It's just such an interesting character. And I would love to see more of the second Sentinel in the future. But moving on to also Songclave, which was right next to it, of course, or in the vicinity. So I quickly grabbed the spool fragment, which Jubilana sells, you know. And then kind of moved back to the putrefied ducts, getting the map and finding also the key of apostles, and also finding that NPC in the area below, which is like, I don't know what that is. Is that a moth creature? I don't know. It's a mother, and you have to find, I think, different types of guts and innards of creatures that you have to farm and give her, so her children can eat and grow big. But there's a little twist with that story. I'm probably not going to show it, but highly recommend. I really like that story. I just wanted to mention it here. With the key of apostles or apostate, I don't know how to say that word. I can finally actually start doing the slab. Joke's on you, I actually opened that door and didn't see that, there's a breakable ceiling, so I just moved away from it. I'm really good at video games, by the way. Jokes aside, I did remember, wait a second, I have double jump, so now I can finally get to this one weird place. And what's here? It's Grindel's little home, I guess, or maybe the home of his little thieves? I don't know what bug is he again? I'm sure people will mention it in the comments, but finally finding Grindel, and he's kind of like the perfect guy with the perfect tools to start grinding rosaries. Keep in mind, this is still day 3 prior to the patches, which gave us way more money from all the different relics and a bunch of other stuff, right? It's now many weeks into Silksong, and a few patches later, it's a lot easier getting rosaries than in the first few days. As mentioned earlier, after finding Grindel and grabbing a few items and tools, I was able to grind for a lot of rosaries and, of course, buy lots and lots of tools, which then brought me back to the Architect. So with the Architect's key, I was able to enter the chapel. I didn't expect there to be an Architect crest, but pretty darn cool. I kind of would have liked to see maybe an upgraded version of the 4th chorus fight. Maybe a 6th chorus. No, jokes aside though, it would have been cool to see a fight here, but I understand, you can't make this game forever and add more and more boss fights. Moving on to another great ability that, to be fair, I like a lot more, and actually I like the entire character, Ava. Such a complex character, and also the one that I really liked going back to, because of the Vesti crest. So now she expanded it, so now I was able to not only use a yellow tool, but also an additional blue tool, which are exactly the 2 tools that I like a lot, because as you may or may not know from the original video, I wasn't really into using weapon tools or, the red tools. Not really my thing. To calm myself down from grinding so many rosaries, I had to, play a little bit of music for the people in Songclave, and then mentally prepare myself for the Courier's Rasher quest. I hope I'm saying this right. So yeah, Flower Quest 2.0. To be fair, way better than Flower Quest, but the timer was already halfway gone when I went up and past the flea caravan. I bumped into the freaking door right before the Great Gourmand or his, servant, and it broke. So I did the whole quest once again, finally gave him that one item, and was finally done with that quest. But before I wanted to continue on with that quest, I guess I just kind of explored the slab again and finally found the ceiling, which I think wasn't even breakable like I just mentioned. It was, I think, already open, so maybe it was even more difficult to realize, oh, there is a place actually. Either way, moving through the slab, which now makes me realize that you only need the first key to find all the other keys to go through the entire place. So I did, finding a mask shard, having, another gauntlet, there can never be too many gauntlets in this game. Yeah, of course, lots of enemies, quite a semi-difficult area, I would say. But I was quite deep in the game, had lots of upgrades, lots of health, pretty cool. And absorbing all the lore on the way, I think I was very focused on maybe the gameplay, not the lore, but I kind of realized that it has something to do with the Weavers. Long story short, the penitent one, the first one, the very first Weaver, I guess, who was trapped or locked up. This also reminded me a little bit of the Hollow Knight, you know, breaking the chains. Good moment. Of course, it being the first Weaver and still alive, or, you know, incredibly powerful, it won't let itself bind to me, or I can't easily absorb it. So this is the first Sinner fight. Absolutely incredible. Such a great surprise that I didn't expect to find right here. Keep in mind, this was still on day 3, so I think this quest, this achievement had like 1 or 2%. A lot more people, I think, found all the mask shards before they did this fight, which is, I'm completely the opposite here. But of course, this was my first attempt, so you can't win. Cool thing though, is that you don't die and like lose a cocoon or you know, you leave a cocoon behind. You just spawn right outside of the door. This is such a small thing by Team Cherry that I really enjoyed that they did that. So it allows you to quickly go back into the fight and, you know, try it over and over. Now finally, after I don't know how many tries, maybe 3, 4, who knows, I beat her. Then a quick scene of, I guess of her memories. I feel like it is. I think it's actually the memories. And also more lore, which I, of course, always appreciate. So it all started with a spider that then gained sentience? Or was able to drastically evolve? I'm not exactly sure, though. So it clearly shows that Silk came from top and struck down on it. So it wasn't the Weavers that naturally evolved, so something forced it to evolve? I'm not quite sure. I also like that, you know, the Divine One, she called us divine, and she lied. I love that. Just really cool. But of course, this is a video game, so people want gameplay, not lore. I mean, I like lore, but of course we get a sick ability called Rune Rage. I think I tried using it once in a while, but it feels a little bit too spread out to be really powerful. To end my day, I played a little bit of the Needle-In on top of having the harp activated, which I feel like the harp has no real use case in the game. I don't think so. I had it always on me, just making sure that if something triggers, it actually triggers. Either way, gotta finish day 3 with, of course, fighting Grandmother Silk. Day 4 started with me trying out the pin-throwing minigame from the Ladybug guy. Actually, pretty fun. I don't know why, it's just a very simple minigame we all probably have seen before in a variety of games. But, you know, it just kind of works in Silksong because pins, I think the pin is kind of like the really first ability or tool you get, alright? But moving on from there was, well, this guy, Bello, was chilling in the sauna. Same, sometimes you just gotta chill after a hard day of work. I understand. Now that I started using the pins on the map, I noticed a spot that I was missing on the bottom of Far Fields. And going up there, I realized, oh, there are rings. So you should actually go here after getting the sling, I think is the ability called, or the harpoon ability. I was, of course, way further into the game already, so getting here was not that difficult, and fighting those few enemies was also not that tough. But I did die once trying to escape from this horrid place. It was just a very short escape sequence, but kinda neat. You were never really challenged in terms of platforming yet. I mean, you know, going up to get one of the melodies right in the Cogwork core is kind of a challenge, but this was with the added stress of, well, if you fail, the lava gets you. Again, looking at the map, I realized the far left place of blasted steps. So for reference, I might have shown it earlier, I defeated the conch fly soon after arriving here, I think, but I never really went further to the left and was just way too scared of all the sand and stuff. And I completely missed the pinstress here for many hours, which is also including her ability that she gives you, which is the charge attack. Pretty neat, which I think I used more often than I thought I would. After helping the absolute chonker of a flea, I followed the quest to the second sentinel. I think he actually asks for a fight, and this was a surprisingly cool fight. Just a different type of playstyle compared to Lace, but also quite similar with parrying and the charge attack that you yourself do. So clearly they were maybe trained by the pinstress or the people behind the pinstress. I'm not quite sure. As I continue on exploring more of the world, because keep in mind we're still not in Act 3 by the way, just as a quick reminder, I also found like these guys in the slab, which was for the Wailing Mother quest, so I did that one. Kind of neat, again, a quick gauntlet. Also, I'm not gonna spoil it right here, but there is a little twist there. If you already did this quest once and didn't go back to that arena, go there once more. Like, just go there one more time. For the end of day 4, I thought of something really fun and exciting. So I ended it with the Liquid Lacquer quest. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with me. So through Bellhard, I went into Shellwood and then through Blasted Steps. I think a lot of people also go through maybe the Underworks, or technically before that through Greymoor, then through Wisp Thicket, I think is it called, and then into Underworks and then into the Citadel. I always chose Bellhard, Shellwood, Blasted Steps, then the Citadel, then the Slab, and of course up Mount Fay. This isn't gonna be the last time I go up Mount Fay. Believe me, there are like 6 more things here that I forgot. I wouldn't say this was neat, obviously, and I probably wouldn't do it again, because I just got 360 rosaries. Like, in my memory, I thought I got a mask shard. Well, I'm gonna think twice about doing it again, but I'm also 90% sure it's probably gives you 1% in the 100% completion, right? Well, guess I'll have to do it again when I do it on stream in a few weeks. Until then, I can of course rest easy in my new home, which I of course decorated with all the fancy stuff like a bench or, you know, lights. How do you decorate again? I'm really good at decorating, if you realize that. But this is the end of day 4, with many more days coming up, and of course, everything in Act 3. From Bilewater's Gauntlet to the Mist and to the Phantom, a lot is happening on day 5. Starting off with the Magnetite dice. Sadly, it doesn't explain it in English what it actually does. What it actually does is you take half as much damage from double damage once in a while. I think it's 1 in 13. The Hollow Knight Wiki is a really good source for looking stuff up like this. I just wish it would be, you know, in plain English, in the game. Moving on from here, I found the secret entrance at the top of Whispering Vaults now, which is also the path towards Bilewater. Oh boy. But before we go there, I of course had to, you know, fight through the saws and all that jazz. And also a really cool area behind Songclave. So I'm really glad having found it, and of course there was a flea, so awoo indeed. But of course, after having gone all the way up and having skipped this area, I go all the way down again and let myself float down and enter Bilewater for the very first time on day 5 of the release. I think pretty late for probably most people, but I'm glad I found it now after having, you know, a lot more masks and more spools and all that jazz. So more tools is definitely a plus here. To keep things short though, because this was hours of footage, I feel like 2-3 hours. I probably spent at least 2 hours in Bilewater. It was long, and of course I died many times. I was glad finding Chakra, but also finding the Mist for the first time. This was a huge surprise. I really wasn't comfortable going into the Mist. I was expecting a similar puzzle to a lot of the Legend of Zelda games. The Legend of Zelda Minish Cap comes to mind. where I think you need to learn how to go through that puzzle. So you go like left, right, left, down, or whatever, you know what I mean, right? There's a little puzzle where you have to go in a certain direction to actually go through. I might make a video in the future of Minish Cap. I kinda want to. But to focus back on Silksong, I didn't want to do that yet, so I went back to Bilewater, found a mask shard, which I was really happy about, because I was feeling like I'm getting punched in the face pretty much every corner in this area. It was pretty rough. The entire area wouldn't be, you know, properly finished without a gauntlet. Yeah, this gauntlet is rough, and I died because I underestimated the many traps, but also the big boss. This took me, again, I think another 2-3 tries to really get comfortable with, okay, what are his attacks? How does he move? How can I take advantage of it to deal damage and, you know, get through this fight? I was really happy, though, that Team Jerry added a bench after this boss fight, so you can kind of, like, breathe a little bit. Something I didn't even mention. He uses Soul, a resource that we have seen so many times in Hollow Knight, and now again here. I'm not quite sure what the lore implications are, but again, I'm ready for a 3-hour moss bag video. Please give it to me straight into my veins. But having gone to Bilewater, I also found the item for Grey Root. So having finished that quest, I was now inflicted. Didn't expect this twist, and no, I have not done the ending with this. You know, with the witch's curse. I'll do it on stream. Cool to see, though, that one, this is a thing, and second, I'm so glad that this mouth explodes. I was at this one spot multiple times and thought, this mouth has to be... You need to open this mouth, right? That there's no way you cannot not open this mouth. Thankfully, there is an exit, or entrance, however you want to see it. Moving on ahead and actually asking a few, or talking to a few NPCs, they kind of lead you into the right direction. I think in Greymoor, the main character, you know, the bartender there, I think he kind of tells you that there is a person at the top of Greymoor in that bell home that I completely forgot again because I didn't use pins for so long. I completely forgot where that place was, even though it actually shows it to you on the map if you know, have eyes. I don't. Well, I have one eye. The other one is lazy. Okay, moving on ahead. I found Yarnaby. Thankfully, she wants to help me if I get the steel spines. So, you know, she can break and rip my shell apart. So, you know, I happily do this. Of course, why not? Can we just say we are blessed with Silksong and how many cutscenes there are in this game? I am loving them. Incredible. Also, Hornet screams sound incredibly painful here. I think the best word is that I was wincing in my chair. With my parasite healed, I went back to the mist, kind of quickly realized that, oh, you gotta use the needle in here with the little butterflies, the white butterflies, and they kind of lead you into direction. Was fairly obvious. And I found myself in the exhaust organ. Also, pretty cool little lore piece here where Lace was talking to maybe the worm? It kind of looks like the worm, right? Or maybe the worm from Hollow Knight, the king, had a wife, and that wife became Grandmother Cell? I'm not quite sure. It just kind of looks worm-like. But moving on ahead to an incredible fight that I, of course, now on day 5, I was really late to. I just never found the Phantom. What an incredible piece of music. It just, again, gave me such strong Castlevania vibes. I was eating very well. And again, we are on day 5. I really didn't expect to find another great boss, another ability like the cross-stitch. So day 5 was packed full with, I don't want to say content, but there was just so much to explore and to discover and experience. It was a great day. On day 6, I had a very long play session. A summary would be finding the sands of Karak, cheating, I'm sorry, laying the trap, entering Act 3, and a whole lot more. Let's get started. I started off by going back to the wormways and realized that the lifeblood is starting to spread. It's actually a really cool area. I love this so much. I love environments and biomes changing in games. Long story short, I found an NPC in the slab area. Feel free to go to him. Kind of neat, didn't expect there to be an NPC there. Then also finding a few more fleas, which then brings me back to the Flea Master, and they get to their last place, which is far to the right, or to the far right of Putrefied Ducts, which becomes Fleatopia. A really neat way to just kind of show you, the player, that by helping the fleas, you have created a town. Beautiful thing, and more on that in a bit. But more importantly, Sands of Karak. How did I get to it? Because we are now many hours in. I probably would guess about 13, 15, 300 hours. I don't know. But the way I realized that there might be something is I looked at the map and it showed me that at the top of the pin stress, the map wasn't fully filled out. So I thought, well, let me fill it out. Let me check that area. Turns out there is an area called Sands of Karak, which explains the whole conch flies. That's where they actually come from, I'm guessing, and a whole lot more. I probably say this every single time. It's absolutely incredible. Love it that there is even more to discover. You clearly notice that these are like smaller areas, so clearly they don't have like so much content in them, and or many puzzles and upgrades, but still, it fills out the world and just really cool. Also, of course, this is where you can find the crust nut, one of the 5 items, I think, is it, for the Great Gourmand quest, which, yes, I still haven't done. I'm sorry. At the top of Sands of Karak, when you handle all the puzzles and platforming sections, I found the Vault Worm. So this also explains, I think, the area at the top of Memoriam where you have, like, electric-related stuff. So this is actually where it comes from. And with the Vault Worm defeated, you also get the Vault Filament. A really cool ability, and from what I know, and I'm definitely gonna try that in my next 100% playthrough, this with the Shaman crest, sorry, spoiler, is apparently really strong. Don't worry, we'll get to the Shamans on this very day. Going back to Sands of Karak, I of course find the second Conchfly and defeat it, also finding the Crust King, which I can't enter yet. But I found that area and I was thinking there has to be something that can be done here. But of course, soon. Now, having found the last area in the game, more or less, and having gotten the last map for it, Chakra has a final quest for us. And it's quite sad. So I'll let this play out. I really enjoyed that Chakra, who was a very big character in the story, got like such a beautiful moment. Getting back to the Caretaker, he has a quest for us. So this is something I didn't know, and thanks to, I think, Blue SR, he mentioned that you need 17 unique quests completed for this quest to trigger, as in the Silk and Soul quest, which then allows you to get into Act 3. I didn't know that. I just stumbled upon it by just doing a lot of quests. I think it's not perfect the way it's done, but it's definitely better than in Hollow Knight, which was very vague. It was incredibly vague. So I guess there is a natural progression for a normal player to stumble upon this last quest. The quest overall tells you to get to all the different hermits across the world. The first one was, of course, the Chapel Maid, which brought us back, I guess, maybe to life at the beginning of the game, or, woke us up. And then the Bell Hermit, who was hiding below Bell Heart. I think I didn't even found him previously. I actually just found him because I maybe Googled him? I'm not quite sure. But the one thing that I had to cheat was the Lugoli quest. So the Lugoli quest is for the pickled mag nugget, which is, I think that was the last item I needed for the Great Gourmand quest. And the reason why I had to cheat for it was on the map itself, as in that little pocket area where the arena is, showed up on my map as if it was completed, as if I was there. But actually, I wasn't. So the map showed me something that wasn't real. This is a pretty big, I would say, mistake in Silksong, where a lot of areas kind of pop up on the map that you physically weren't there yet. If they could update that in the future, that would be amazing. I understand that's a lot of work for such a massive game, but yeah, this kind of forced me to cheat, find the pickled mag nugget, and of course have the Great Gourmand scene, which, to be fair, is kind of funny, like this massive being just slobbering down on this jelly-like thing. It doesn't look really appetizing, but you know, you do you. Getting the pale oil, having upgraded my nail, I then finally did the final quest, maybe, which is fight Grandmother Silk and activate the trap. What a plot twist. First of all, that lace comes back. Second of all, the void. There's so many twists and turns. Also, the cutscene, incredible. Getting back to the game, I saw my save file looked a bit strange. I got into the game once again with another beautiful cutscene. Well, not so beautiful with Hornet laying there. And another plot twist. That's why they're the GOAT! The GOAT! Act 3, Abyss. I was so happy. It's such a... The game continues to give so many hours in. It's amazing. Thanks to Sherma, who became now the caretaker of Songclave, we are back on the road. On the way to the Bell Beast, well, there's a little bit of a twist. Super cool boss fight and a very nice surprise. Also, is this boss kind of similar to the Metroid Zero Mission boss? I think it is, but it's kind of like obvious in a 2D Metroidvania. I think it's a classic. This also now gives you something which is, I again also didn't expect in Silksong, a way to quickly travel to the fast travel locations. So now you can play the needle in, and then you play a different song, which then brings the little Bell Beast children to you. It's so beautiful. Continuing on with the quest, I went back to the very start of the game and to the left side, which was locked since forever, and I was always wondering what's going on here. Going into this door that finally opened up, the snail shamans appear. So all three of them, being the chapel maid, the caretaker, and the bell hermit, were all snail shamans. What an incredible way to re-add those characters into the game from Hollow Knight with a bit of a twist, because they technically did something bad, but it was also Hornet that allowed it to happen. They themselves couldn't have done it. It was kind of all on Hornet, or us, the player. Another thing I constantly looked at was the big ass bellhome, or some sort of like diving thing. Well, I didn't know it was about diving into the lava, which was at the more or less bottom right of Deep Docks. I went back there multiple times trying to figure out what can I do with this. Because keep in mind, I have many hours now that I cut out where I just literally walked around and was thinking, there has to be something I can do, right? But turns out this is actually about diving down through the lava, and with a little bit of a mistake, I guess, the Hornet crash lands in the abyss. And seeing the abyss monster, like the little snail thing, whatever the heck they are, you know, that crawl on walls, I was like, ain't no way. How is this game continuing, giving this much? I was like shocked how much cool stuff there still is. But skipping ahead, again, I'm sorry, Lace, or I guess maybe a portray of Lace through the void, it's a bit weird, comes back after finding the place where the grandmother Silk is, deep down in the void, cocooned off and barely struggling to stay alive. Now we have a new quest, which is to get the Everbloom, that beautiful white flower, or the flower quest as most of us, know from Hollow Knight. It has a very special power, and I'm not quite sure we fully know why it has that power, but either way, we have to kind of get it. More on that in a bit. I then went to the far right of that place where Grandmother Silk is currently, and find myself the Silk Soar ability. Again, I didn't expect this to be in Silksong, and I'm very, very happy it is. I, of course, thought of a similar ability like with, I think, Symphony of the Night, where you can, like, thrust up or like fly upwards. I think this is definitely better than that, because it is it's an incredibly strong ability, of course, to just click a button and you just fly up like this all the time. Hornet has to focus her silk to then thrust the nail upwards, which then has to land on something so she can pull herself up. It's a really nice limitation, but also gives you that physical thing in a game, which is kind of important. You don't want just floating around magically. It can lose that physical feeling in a game, right? Also finding the far side, which I activated later. More on that in a bit. But of course, we first have to escape the Abyss, which is far easier said than done, as the Abyss likes to hold you down, You can't escape the void that easily. I'll let this scene play out because it's an amazing scene, and listen to the music because it's actually the music that plays at the beginning of the game and is the very first track in the OST called Enter Farloom. This music hits so hard in this moment because you have struggled so much in this game and you feel like you have grown with Hornet through this adventure. And now this. Now back in Farloom, I went back to the shamans and asked them what to do and how can we do this. So the short answer is we have to get 3 hearts from known warriors, I guess, in Farloom that still live or can still be accessed. With a certain song they teach you, you can enter their memories. So it's a little bit of that dream nail mechanic from Hollow Knight, but with the logic of, well, it has to be about Silk and song. So, makes sense, I guess. The anime vibes coming in hot right now, to be fair, at this part of the story, but, I'll accept it. So the main quest is get those 3 hearts, and then we can enter our own memory and get the Everbloom out. So you pretty much pull out the memory of the Everbloom into the real world. Big anime vibes, but it's fine. More importantly, another cutscene, and it's such a beautiful cutscene as well, because it's very short, but it has like a really nice vibe, where you activate the Farsight in your home, which finally lets you, I guess, sense the world, because, weavers and silk can run through everything, I guess, and Hornet can attach itself to that silk that runs through the world, is my guess right now, lore-wise. But it lets you also see the game completion of everything in the game, or at least most of it, as in how many tools do you have, and how much total completion do you have. And you might be surprised that this isn't even the ending of day 6. Oh yes, there is more. After consuming my bread and having a bit of a break, I came back to the game and realized that the craw brought me some sort of summon item. It's a really neat gauntlet, kind of later in the game now in Act 3, that is quite difficult and also gives you a bit of a memento. So it's a little bit of a collector's item. It's not part of the 100% completion, but still neat that it's in the game. After accepting a few wishes or quests, I found one from the Pinstress. The Pinstress herself, I guess, wants to challenge me in a fight, and to be fair, that is a really cool thing. I didn't expect that we could fight her. This feels like this would have been DLC content in Hollow Knight, but in Silksong, it's just part of the game, which is just amazing. What isn't amazing is that she is gosh darn brutal. I didn't expect such a varied fight this deep into the game. She felt very different. I think it took me maybe a few tries, but in the end, I of course beat her, because, I'm Hornet sorry. I like that Hornet doesn't kill her and pretty much just tells her to stay in Farloom and potentially teach other bugs in the future after she's done saving Farloom to train them, right? They need someone. They need a master. They need someone strong to protect the bugs, but also potentially train them in the future. Just a neat way to wrap up her character arc. I also found out that the Pin Master was in a dire situation, which, I had to save him from. And to be fair, now that these bugs are, I guess, possessed by the void or strengthened by it, it is kind of difficult. Even if those bugs are usually kind of okay, now that they are strengthened by the void, they are surprisingly tough and difficult. But moving on from that, apparently this was also the grave of his wife, and as you can see, the grave in the background was actually broken. Kind of sad for the Pin Master, but glad he's safe. After doing a few quick quests, I had to start doing the main objective, as in get the hearts and then save Farloom. Being incredibly smart and entering the Crust King, I think my brain just turned off and I forgot how to use the leap ability. The Silksong ability that you should use to get up. Yeah, I don't know what was wrong with me. Of course, at some point, my brain cells, the two of them, activated, and I leap up and enter the Coral Tower, which is, again, I know it's a little bit of a short area and there isn't much content, but it's such a beautiful area and has such a different vibe. Sands of Karak must have been the broken down version of this great kingdom in the past. So it's great to see that this was that kingdom. And we only see a glimpse of it in the game. Well, in the real game, as in not in the memory, but also in the memory, it's just very faint. You just have a few rooms with a gauntlet, of course, and I think I actually just left at some point, because it was 3 gauntlets in a row, and then the final boss. And I think I died at exactly the last gauntlet, and I really didn't want to repeat it again for the third time, I think now. So I took a bit of a break and found the Wisp Thicket, which is awful. Okay, it's not awful, but this boss and all the homing fire abilities, that's really difficult. I think it's because you weren't really used to anything homing onto you for so long in the game. And this is the one area where just everything hates you. Still, this is kind of a neat area above Greymoor that I completely missed until, well, right now in Act 3. And I think I even didn't see at the top left that shortcut to get into the Underworks, which is, by the way, another way to get into Act 2. So you don't have to fight the judge. Next up was actually a fight I briefly saw when I entered Monstela's Twitch stream, which was Tormented Trobio. Tormented Trobio is just a more difficult version of the original fight, but not only did they make him more difficult, I don't even think he does more damage, it's just that he has more complex abilities, it's also that like the entire stage changes. And for the record, I wanna say, I did him first try. I didn't die a single time. You have no proof. It's a great way to, I guess, add a beloved character again into your game to just have a second version of him. Similar to the Dream Warriors in Hollow Knight, but this is just him here. So sadly, there aren't more characters like him in the game that become tormented or evil or something. Well, actually, there is one. I hope you have your tissues already prepared, because here it is. If you remember Garment and Zaza, well, they have fought across the world. I think I saw them a few times in Farfields, and I went to Blasted Steppes. Zaza already comes towards you and leads you to Garment, who is now lost Garment. We were never able to fight this warrior in the game, so this is just a great way to fight him now actually in the game and test your might against this, well, mighty warrior. Sadly, he's lost. The void has consumed him, and not even the music can save him now. I also really like that Zaza talks about his old friend and that he was so strong and so kind. Is anybody else tearing up? What is happening in Silksong? Well, I tell you what is happening. The lifeblood. The lifeblood has consumed the wormways now. It has now spread into every corner, consuming everything to become just an unstoppable force in this environment. The alchemist ultimately rips his, I think, heart out, or, well, technically Hornet rips it out, and it's the plasmium gland you now get. This is a great way to kind of finish off the character, while also giving you a way to constantly get the file back, or to be able to refill the file. After finding the alchemist, I was wondering, what about his assistant? So yes, if you didn't know, the assistant got plasmified and brought back to life, which is kinda crazy that, you know, lifeblood can bring you back to life. After looking across the map, I was wondering about the top of the citadel, as in where Grandmother Silk was. It was not fully explored, and we couldn't really do much because we were so weak. So, going up there, I find the Pale Nails. I think this was the last ability I found in the game now, and it's a really cool homing ability, and I think it's actually fairly strong if all 3 nails hit the enemy. If it doesn't, yeah, it's kind of, I think, decent, but not incredibly strong. Still, if you don't want to aim, and want to have sick nails appear behind you that then home onto the enemy, go ahead. It's pretty decent. Another quest was to clean up these amalgamations of void, where I think multiple corpses got strung up into this silken void, which you can then just destroy and finish the quest. I think there were, I have to be lying, I think there might have been like 10 of them. they are pretty difficult because they use a mix of different void abilities or void attacks, while also attacking, I think, far more often than just a, bug that was voidified. Is voidified a word? I'm gonna go with voidified. After having done a few quests, it was time to actually get back and get the heart. So, back at the Crustacean King, I finished the gauntlet. Thankfully, there's actually a shortcut you can unlock, so you don't have to do all 3 gauntlets over and over again. And now, Rust King Khan appears, and I think I did him on my first try? I think this was really weird, because he seemed incredibly easy compared to his brutal gauntlet. To be fair, all his attacks are very obvious, but this might also be on purpose, because his attacks are huge. He controls the environment. He's pretty much the Earthbender of Silksong. Can we agree on that? After getting the encrusted heart, one of the 3 hearts I need to find, I end day 6. But we are not done yet, and there are a few more days left. On day 7, I got myself not only 1 heart, but 2 hearts. I haven't checked out the Hunter's March for quite a while and was a bit surprised seeing that an old gauntlet was kind of reactivated now in Act 3, on top of course, voidifying some enemies. Pretty darn dangerous, those enemies, when they deal more damage and have crazy attacks. I kind of assumed that the statue of Carmelita was the entrance to get deeper into Hunter's March and get the heart. So 1 Silksong later, and I was off to the races. Which races? Well, Sprint Master Swift. Yes, that Sprint Master from Hollow Knight is apparently in Silksong. I was very surprised seeing that quest and seeing him just standing there, getting ready, warming up. For me, this was a neat challenge, and I think it also gives you a mask shard later on, if you do all 3 challenges. And boy is the 3rd one difficult. Still very neat that he's in the game. Finding Carmelita, or kind of what is left of her. She is apparently incredibly old now, and also enormous. Entering her memory, you can hear Carmelita from many decades ago, from many generations ago, and it's just gorgeous. After challenging Scar Singer Carmelita and getting rid of her goons, she starts attacking herself. And my god, is she attacking! From all directions in crazy patterns that is so unique to her, which messed me up so many times. This fight might have been the most difficult fight in the game, maybe even more difficult than Lost Lace. Spoiler. But after many tries, I finally beat her and got the Hunter's heart. I think this actually killed her in, well, the real world. A very sad ending to her character, which we barely have seen. There is another sad character called Seth, a warrior that has protected Nyleth for decades, maybe hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. It's the heart of Shellwood. Only because of Nyleth, the Shellwood was able to grow and let other bugs pass, or not pass, if Seth didn't want them to. And he proved to me many times that he has the might to fight back. Again, a very complex fight with so many different attacks, and again, very high damage, which made him surprisingly challenging, even right after Carmelita. Nyleth herself was quite a surprise. I didn't expect a plant of some sort, but kind of makes sense for Shellwood. Also a very different fight, which kind of removes the floor underneath your feet. On top of that, her attacks really messed me up a few times, especially that spit attack. I think she took far less attempts than Scarsinger Carmelita and Seth. And now, with the Pollen Heart, I have all 3 hearts and can continue the main objective. But my goal isn't to finish the game, it's to 100% it. I started off day 8 by going back to Sprint Master Swift. It shows how Team Cherry loved making this game, putting Sprint Master Swift in. And for people that don't know, he was actually a charm, or, well, not he himself, but there was a charm related to him in Hollow Knight. Moving on to a side quest with Gore, who is apparently like an outsider of Hunter's March. Really tough boss fight, but I think I did him on my first try. Well, also only because I really tried to focus and not die. Also a nice surprise was finding the second Sentinel. If you didn't know, the second Sentinel was activated by putting in the heart piece, and I mentioned it multiple times throughout this video, throughout this very, very long video, but he's such an interesting character, and I hope when we, or if we get a DLC around him, that he gets a special ending, like a really solid ending to his character. To finish things off, I found a strange place in the shaman area. It looked a little bit suspicious, and looking around in there, I found the shaman crest. I think this was the last crest I found in the game, but I didn't really use it. The information in the game is very vague about it, but apparently, according to the wiki, it's 50% more silk damage. That is a lot. But now it was time to get back to the shamans and start the ritual. The ritual to infuse me with all 3 hearts. Or something? Such a simple cutscene, but it works so well, especially with that crunch sound effect, as it feels like Hornet breaks in some way. But sadly, because of time constraints, I can't show everything of the red memory. Again, incredible. It's that this was in the game is beautiful, and it feels similar to after having dream nailed the egg and going up the abyss. This is kind of the opposite. We're diving deep and very deep into Hornet's memories from her upbringing as a little baby having been taught how to weave silk, and moving on to her mother, Hera, which we have never really met in the original game in Hollow Knight. Following that was her upbringing and training in the Hive, and having grown to a mighty warrior, meeting with the White Lady. I highly recommend reading this dialogue. I mean, I recommend playing Silksong overall, but it's so complex in ways I don't think I'm smart enough to either understand or explain. For a game that looks like a cartoon, it's kind of magical. I feel like it works even better having such a complex story and background and lore and world and characters, because the game looks this cartoony. You don't expect it, and maybe that's why it, in a word that doesn't fit, it hits this well. It touches me deeply. Ultimately, the red memory finishes off with the Everbloom, and sadly, also the death of the snails. This brings us to the final battle, deep in the abyss, and to the dive. And I don't know where to put this, but when Hornet says she is and always will be a daughter of Hallownest, I'm speechless. The previous scene got me so emotional, I actually had to take a break from recording the voiceover. First of all, thanks for still being here. And second of all, what a gorgeous scene with the Everbloom voiding off the void, but also the sheer size difference of Hornet getting into the cocoon and giving us an amazing perspective of how enormous it truly is, and how tiny, and not in a negative way, but how insignificant Hornet seems compared to it. And from this to the final boss fight, Lost Lace. She's not Lace anymore. The Void has cursed her, and her attacks sure show that she's not the same. She's far more deadly, far more agile, with more phases, and just such an aggressive way of attacking. It's still elegant in a way, but it's very deadly and just it has an oomph behind it. was the first time I beat Lost Lace, so I was not quite sure what the game wanted me to do. I kind of hoped that I could actually save Grandmother Silk, but sadly not. To escape the cocoon, Hornet asks Grandmother Silk to give her, well, silk, to use an incredibly strong silk sword straight out of the cocoon. And with Lace in her hand, they soar up through the void, but sadly the Everbloom breaks, and I will let the last scene play out, because it is, again, beautiful. I remember when Team Cherry told us that each ending is canon, but I didn't expect the knight to appear at this point. It was a beautiful surprise, but we also see a glimpse of the Void Beast, or Shade Beast, so maybe he's still communicating with it? It's difficult to put it into words, because it is very vague. We have to move on from this gorgeous ending, because this is only day 8, and there is a lot more to do. 89% of the game is done, so we still have 11% to do. Well, not you, but I have quite a lot to do. And first of all, a lot of passive income from the Crawbell, I think is it called, that I gathered earlier. I really like this, because it kind of finishes or solves the issue of not having enough material long term. This is just a way to solve that issue for people that play a little bit slower, and because they play slower, they actually get more out of it. Moving on to Ava. Having my Hunter crest upgraded doesn't really matter too much, as I haven't really used it a lot, but then afterwards she asks Hornet if she could unify with her, meaning Ava loses her, well, everything that she is, but becomes part of Hornet and can experience the world through her eyes. A beautiful ending to someone who literally can't have a body. But this also gives you the ability of Silksong. This is similar to Salubra's Blessing in Hollow Knight, as instead of giving you soul, it gives you silk. And quite a lot of it in a very short amount of time. Again, such a really neat, quick upgrade that you can get later in the game. And you might be wondering, yes, what you're seeing is correct. I have not seen the many secrets during my playthrough in the Bellways or in the fast travel locations. There were some secrets. Did I see any of them? No. No, I did not. I swear, please believe I'm good at video games. Please? After gathering just a few upgrades here and there, I also went back to the architect, who sadly passed away. I swear to God, Team Cherry, if more people die, I'ma cry. Finding my way back to Mount Fae, I found a few more upgrades and also a mask shard I forgot earlier. And now to the finale of day 8. And another surprise that I didn't expect to be in Silksong. The Master Herald. I think this is one of the very unique quests. This one is called Passing of the Age. Same within Hollow Knight, you have to find the Master Herald, who is everywhere in the world, and he likes to speak in riddles, so he doesn't exactly say where he is. Classic, of course. So after traveling through Farloom once again and trying to find him, he was in Bone Bottom, Far Fields, then at the entrance of the Wisp Thicket, then at the First Sinner, and at top of Mount Fae. Ultimately, it's time to climb up to the top of the cradle. This climb took me 17 minutes. And we're not even talking about the entire climb. We're talking about the last very difficult section. If you have done this, you know what I'm talking about. It's an incredibly long climb with arguably maybe the most difficult platforming in the game. It might also be because I've started using the Hunter's Crest once again, which might have been a mistake because I have used the Wanderer's Crest for the majority of my playthrough. So switching to a different crest might have been a mistake this late in the game. Still, after struggling up, I finally got there, and he of course blasted off once again. This feels kind of like a joke insert sometimes in games that Team Cherry likes to do. It also reminds me a little bit of Panda Man in One Piece, if you know what that is, or who that is. Now, from finding Master Herald to another incredible surprise, the surface. You can actually go there. I didn't expect that we could go this high up, well, in Farloom, or even outside of Farloom, finding, I guess, normal bugs that just are bugs. It feels kind of surreal in a game that is about bugs to actually find, well, normal bugs. But here they are. And apparently there was a nameless town. So maybe some bugs that still had intelligence still lived here for a while until they left, or maybe lost their mind? Not in a negative sense. I guess maybe they just lost their intelligence. One could say maybe their soul? It's difficult to say. After playing the Needle-In at this spot, you actually get the surface memento. I also like that if you go very far to the left, Hornet says that she can't abandon Farloom, and that out there is only the waste. So there is nothing out there. Maybe? But clearly Hallownest had to be somewhere. So is Hallownest and Farloom in the deep core of the Earth, or of this world, and everything outside is kind of plain and simple and a wasteland? I would really love to see more of what this world truly is that Team Cherry is envisioning. But this ends day 8, and in the next few days I'll gather the last few percentages of upgrades, which are a few mask shards, spool fragments, tools, and also a map. Day 9 was filled with fleas, a beautiful area in Mount Fae, and just another gorgeous area, and then just a whole lot more fleas. Let's continue. I found Vogue after many tries in Putrefied Ducts, which is the one NPC that I really hoped would be in the game, because it's about finding fleas. So if you have troubles finding fleas in the game, or really can't find the last few of them, and you don't know where they are, well, there is an NPC now for you that you can just buy infos from. Great way to add it in a gameplay way, instead of just a magic way of finding them. I mean, I also liked finding the grub map in Hollow Knight, but I think this works really well too. This then brought me to Mount Fae once again, and to Bright Vein. What an absolutely gorgeous area. I couldn't believe that after having played already so much, I found another area that is just mind-boggling, beautiful, gorgeous. I'm forgetting words at this point. Seriously, great area, loved finding it, and it's a true secret, and also kind of necessary because there's a mask shard hidden. Of course there is. Later on, I also found the quick sling in the bile water area. What a great area. I love it so much. Anyways, moving on from that to something more beautiful, but also kind of sad. Verdania, or how some people call it, I think is Verdania. Let me know in the comments down below what is correct. I'm actually not quite sure. This relates to the Green Prince and the Cogwork Dancers. He was the original Cogwork Dancer, him and I'm guessing his wife, who then maybe passed away or got taken advantage of. After entering his memory, you can explore Lost Verdania or Verdania. It's absolutely, again, gorgeous in a completely different way. It's just so filled with life. Very different from other areas, as it is very much focused on an endgame area. This isn't something you find at the start of the game, because it's all about pogoing and movement, which in the beginning of the game you probably aren't good at. But now, later in the game, this is perfect. You feel so free in this area, bouncing around, dodging and weaving through enemies. Well, some enemies are difficult to dodge and weave through, but beside that, it's an incredible area. What you actually have to do in this area is find these little interactables that are light orb? Let's call them light orbs. When you touch them, they fly through the room, leaving a trail. You have to follow that trail and touch the little light orbs on the right or on the path, which then gets you, I guess, the big orb, which then flies off and illuminates the final area in this, to be fair, very small map or very small area. Lost Verdania or Verdania is sadly kinda small. It is, after all, just a part of the Green Prince's memory. It's not supposed to be the entire thing. After trying the Cogwork Dancers, well, the original Cogwork Dancers this time, I died, of course. But I also found a secret to the right in, I guess, the normal world, not in the memory world, which then actually unlocks the Lost Verdania or Verdania map. Going back and beating the Cogwork Dancers, I sadly got the Green Prince's heart, the conjoined heart, which sadly kills him. A really sad ending for a character, as he was probably locked up for a very long time, was able to discover what Farloom has become, and then die. From something quite dark to something else that kind of looked dark at the start, the fleas. The presentation looked like I have to kill all the fleas or fight them, but thankfully, taking a breather, it's actually a festival. What a beautiful ending actually to my day 9, and also after Verdania or Verdania. This wish was called the Ecstasy of the End, which I ultimately finished. It took quite a few tries, and I think I did 1 or 2 of these mini games that you can do, which is like pogo the fleas who have helmets on, which is just really cute. I took a quick break from that sometimes. I think I went there, did a few tries, went away again, did some other stuff, but ultimately I just finished it, because these mini games are fairly quick and short. At the end, I got myself a pale oil, which then upgrades the needle to the pale steel needle. So now it's this beautiful, white, crystal clear needle, fully prepared, but with the pattern of the hive. It's gorgeous. But I, again, didn't expect that the needle becomes this strong in the game, but also looks this good. It's like there's a storytelling aspect in the needle itself, but also kind of shows how far you have come as a player. It's great. And another great thing is the ending, because I finished on day 8 the Herald quest, but I didn't beat Lost Lace again to see the ending. So, here it is. For the finale, I'm going to combine day 10 and day 11. Not much happened on day 10, so that's why. If you are wondering what happened on day 10, well, it was literally the last map, which was the Abyss map. I really couldn't see that one place at the top of the bench. I was genuinely blind, I think. Since then, I have also increased the brightness of the game. You know, just to make sure. Also say hi to Gilly. Just wanted to mention that here because she actually appears in that spot once again. Kind of neat. Then also the last mask shard at the middle part of Whispering Vaults. It's really strange that it's there, and again, I really wish the sound effect of it would be very obvious, but sadly isn't. But moving also on from that, back to Bilewater, which has a weave nest. I didn't know that. And to be fair, a lot of these things I actually had to Google, or, just look up. Thankfully, there are amazing tools and information out there now on the wiki, so even interactive maps now of the entire Silksong map. It helped a lot. After having done Bilewater and repairing the ruined tool, I just chose anyone. Well, I think I could also have only repaired this one because the architect already died, sadly. But then, the worst part, White Ward. This place, not only was I missing a spool fragment, which was, I think, also the last spool fragment, but also the Silk Heart, which you need the Surgeon's Key. It's required you get the Surgeon's Key before that. I have no idea how I have missed pretty much 50% of White Ward. After grabbing the third Silk Heart, I went down to the Abyss once again, dove into the void with the Everbloom, fought Lost Lace one final time, not counting the few deaths I had, because it's not an easy fight, okay? And I think what most people were wondering, what is my time? I beat Silksong, not blind, let's be honest, I cheated a bit, and got 100% in 44 hours. I think that's a respectable time. And with this, I want to thank everyone who has watched until now. Hope you enjoyed, I hope you stayed hydrated, and until next time, bye-bye.